Good day and welcome to a Life in Motion podcast, Season 1 Awakening, Episode 6, if you can believe that. Today we are going to talk about gratification. My own definition of it, how I interpreted it from an amazing book I read, Authentic Happiness, that truly changed my life, but together with three most amazing, brilliant minds that are here with me to make sure it's not only my definition, but multiple definitions that help the community advancing with their own lives in motion. To start with the introductions, I would love to bring in Romana into the stage. Romana, can you introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Yes, thank you, Eduardo, and thank you for having me. My name is Romana. I'm an executive coach and leadership consultant. Most of my clients are decision makers, owners, founders, managing directors, CEOs, and I basically help them to do what they love and delegate the rest in very simple words. We can, of course, discuss how, but part of it is a gratification or a satisfaction because there is no such thing as a work-life balance. So we need to combine it into one life. So that's
I
about me.
absolutely love that. Welcome, Romana. I remember when we connected so long ago here in this platform and started to exchange, and I saw you developing your business, growing, integrating this purpose into it that does lead not only executives but everybody into living satisfying lives. I would love to explore this together with you as if we would be assembling one of your brilliant Legos together.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to today.
I would love to bring in now Pina into this stage. I have also a black cat that is just looking at me through the window, and I got a little scared for a second. Sorry about that. Pina, welcome into the stage. Can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Thank you, Eduardo. On top of your black cat, I have this background noise right now in my apartment just to make things a bit more lively, I guess. So thank you for having me here. I'm Pinar Meneberg. I'm a computer scientist, a dancer, a coach, and a writer. I specialize in AI, in artificial intelligence, and I've been in global leadership roles in corporates for quite a while now. But in all this world, I have basically found a way to reconnect with my body through dancing. Dancing has always been a part of my life, an important part of my life. And I reconnected through it with myself and also with my leadership and with my truth, honestly. And it was a journey with a lot of learnings for me. And now through my learning and my coaching, I'm sharing these learnings just to help and serve others, not help actually, serve others through life and career transition. And yeah, gratification and burnout have also been a part of my journey. So I'm happy to be here with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You come from maybe the other end of the experience. With me, we have recently met through a common friend that is actually going to be in the next episode of this podcast. And it was because of writing and publishing books. And I felt really inspired when I talked to you. And I could point to some specific aspects of our conversation that were really encouraging and energizing. But you just said something now that connect everything for me, which is being a whole human being, bringing all these different angles, aspects of yourself fully into your life, into whatever you want to represent, and doing that in the service of others. I feel already even more connected and eager to hear how this conversation is going to develop. Thank you so much for being here. Last but not least, I have this immense pleasure to bring you, Rona, together with us today. And I would love if you could introduce yourself to our audience.
Thank you, Eduardo. Thank you for bringing us together. on this really interesting conversation. So my name is Rona Steinberg and I am the Out Loud coach. And I'll probably be talking a bit more about that. But basically, I help my clients really get to know themselves and accept themselves for who they are and express themselves that way. I was not always a coach. I used to be a lawyer back in the day, and it's been a very big journey for me because I would say when I was being a lawyer, I was not, I'm going to say something weird now, gratifying myself. So from there, it was a big shift for me to become a coach. And it was indeed all about seeking this gratification that we're going to be talking about. And I touched my heart there because my work now as a coach is very heart led and it brings me so much joy. And I seek joy in other spaces. I'm a mother to 3 grown up children, grandmother to 2 little boys. I love gardening, reading, writing, swimming outside in the beautiful open air. And I'm going to say a little thing here. And I'm really looking forward to swimming in this sea together with you today. I know that was good, wasn't it? Yes,
I
it was good.
loved it. So good. So good. I'm like, this is not even the having fun session, and I'm having so much fun. It is such a pleasure to be here with you because you were also representing a new family for me. You know that together with the folks from Ginger Leadership Communications. And I immediately go back to last November, December when we were together, and I had the pleasure to meet you in person. And at that time, you probably don't know that I was still toying with the idea, finally making the decision of publishing my book or not. And then I heard your story and how you introduced yourself as a published author, and I felt like, wow, if I needed any extra push, here I have it. You know, the kind of love, the kind of energy that you brought into the room, and then understanding how your book is part of that journey really motivated me to proceed with mine. So I'm forever thankful for you for that, and extra happy having you today to talk about gratification. And I already hear many times fulfilling this mission of serving others. Lovely. In the audience, if anybody has questions, comments, please be welcome to shoot. We are going to be also extracting insights over there in order to conduct and drive the conversation. Hopefully answering some questions and giving tons of insights, tips, ideas that are not right or wrong, but hopefully helpful. I would like to start the session by finding a definition for gratification that works, not necessarily for all of us together, because I love having gaps and just surfacing these gaps of understanding and then finding alignment to help us proceeding into the next topics and then working on the burnout question. When I wrote Life Emotion, I wrote that gratification is a pleasurable emotional reaction of happiness in response to fulfillment, not fulfilling, when doing something in the service of others. And that's a combined definition. I have extracted much of it and the thoughts behind it from Martin Seligman, from his book, Authentic Happiness. Though he defines it slightly different, he just says it's a pleasurable emotional reaction of happiness in response to fulfillment. So I really deliberately added the service of others out there. And I had to think a lot when I was writing the book if I wanted this to be in that first part of the book that talks about mindset, or more on the second part where I talk about careers and then include leadership. I toyed a lot with this idea because, of course, I could easily snap into the concept of servant leadership. And then we are talking about something that, for me, is still slightly different because I felt from my life experiences, I could find a gratification not at all thinking or worrying or trying to be a leader because being of service came in the first place. Now, that's just my definition. I would love to go around in this room and ask you about yours, maybe starting with you, Rona, because you were the last to introduce yourself.
Oh, thank you. I'm still thinking about that servant leadership thing, letting that drop down. But from my own point of view, maybe I can share this with you because I've also been thinking about this a lot. And I tell this story a lot as well. I grew up in um, a part of London, North London. I was the youngest of 4 children. My father was the local GP and my mum was a housewife. It was a very busy house because the surgery was in the house. And we used to get a lot of coming and going. People were there around all the time. And I loved that. I love people. I love being amongst all those people all the time. But quite often, I needed to seek a quiet place. And my quiet place, even as a very little girl, was out in the garden underneath a willow tree that was in our garden. It was enormous, that willow tree, huge. And so a little girl, me, could slip beneath the branches, these green branches, really easily and hide in there. And what I did when I was in there, and I remember this so clearly, and it's going to sound a bit strange, but stay with, I would interview myself. And I guess that we used to watch quite a lot of television in our family, and even in the 60s. And I must have watched some kind of chat show. And I was kind of doing that. I was chatting to myself and answering. And that I think was because I was really interested in what made me tick. And this is a clue for me for who I was and who I continued to be. And that person that got stepped on as I grew up. Because as I grew up, I learned to be a good girl. I think I will put it like that. I really bought into the system that said, you must be very conscientious, you must do your homework excellently, and you must pass your exams at the highest level, and then go to university and do a really good degree. And a really good degree, in my eyes, was the law. Heavy.
Mhm.
And I did that as I did everything else at that time, conscientiously. And I stepped into that law office and it did not bring me gratification. And gratification for me, and I did not know that at the time, but I learned later as a coach, is around really honoring your values. And your values to me are the who you are, that what makes you tick. And I had a lot of anxiety and stress as a lawyer. It didn't suit me at all. I had to work very hard with my brain. It wasn't very emotional. I was anxious. I did not like the responsibility, but I thought I had to, push through it like so many of us do. And at a certain point, I started a family and I was quite happy to step away from that law office. And I told myself, I didn't like law and I wanted to be a mum, but this sense of frustration and feeling that I wasn't really being my true self followed me. And I knew I had to find out who I was. It took me a long, long time. But eventually, fighting even against myself then, I surrendered, if you like. And I became a coach. It's a bit of a story, but when I really said to myself, I'm going to be a coach now, there was a feeling of coming home and it just felt like me. And since I've been a coach, serving other people, absolutely, and really feeling it's like my vocation, it's natural to me. That feels to me like gratification and it feels like the work I'm meant to do. And so that's really where I stand. And it reminds me of the little girl that sought quiet places and really listened to myself and just enjoyed thinking about who people are and why are they like that and helping other people feel okay about themselves. That's really big to me.
I love that, Rhoda. If I could ask you to extend a tiny little bit, when you compare these two experiences that you have had in life as a lawyer and now, what is the experienced feelings when you compare and where you see gratification playing a role in your life?
I really like that. So when I was a lawyer, um, I felt like I was constantly battling with myself. I was at odds with myself and I was forcing myself. So obviously there were glimmers of gratification. I loved being, with my colleagues and I liked the clients because they were in the film business and the music business and that was exciting. But I was always on the outskirts. I remember going to a really
it was a first night and premiere. And I remember sitting at a table far, far away from the action with the other professionals, the lawyers, the accountant, and feeling like this isn't really me. And contrary to, no honoring of my values, no honoring of me. When I became a coach, I felt it's natural. It's just natural to me. It's authentic. It's what there's an ease to it. And I feel like so much joy when I'm with my clients, and it's joyful for me. So that's that part of gratification, but it's also joyful because I see them grow. So I think that service part is very, very important to me as well. The feeling of almost euphoria when I can see someone relax into themselves and they light up. It's it's beautiful work, and I love it.
We share that love. Thank you so much. I would maybe ask then Romana to talk a little bit about your definition of gratification and how you experience it in your life, Romana. And obviously, at any point in time, if you want to compound and bring something together with what the others are saying, be welcome to do that.
Of course. I'm just thinking what Rona said. And maybe build on it. And the reason why we met today is to talk about the gratification in the long haul, how we are being satisfied in the long haul, being true to ourselves. But I want to maybe expand the notion of gratification as such, because when you said, let's talk about gratification, the first thing that popped to my mind was at this very opposite end, which is the short-term version of a gratification, and the very famous marshmallow test, when you put a marshmallow in front of a small child and you tell him you can either have the marshmallow now or you can wait. And if you are able to wait a bit longer, you get two. And there is a research saying that the more you are able to wait, the more successful, in a sense of the more satisfied you are going to be. However, there are two polarities. I would say even most of us, in parts of our lives, are choosing to get the marshmallow immediately. That's the easy dopamine rush when we scroll through the social media, or when we choose the easy way to be the people pleasers, because that's actually the easy way to please others, instead of saying, oh, okay, this is my boundary. This is no longer who I am or what I want to do. So through our lives, we are grabbing the marshmallow immediately because it brings us the short one, the short dopamine hit, the chase of the reward. We are going to be liked by others. That's one. Or we don't have to face the uncomfortable situations. Another one. So we choose to go for the gratification in the very sense of, okay, let's have it now. And then another pole is that when we choose to prolong the period by setting the higher goals for us, saying, okay, when I reach this position, I'll be finally happy. When I get this job, I'll finally be successful. When I earn that kind of money, I will finally be able to afford what I want to have in my life. So that's another polarity of gratification. And I actually would even dare to say this is what we tend to do the first half of our lives. Also because it serves the purpose. And let's be honest to say, it serves the purpose a lot of times based on the beliefs that we built through life, based on our upbringing. And then something changes when we hit the second part of our life, when we start to question the quick relief or the quick dopamine hit, because it no longer serves us. And then we are moving to the gratification, as Rona was talking about. What are really our values? Who we are truly? What makes us tick? What brings us joy? Because through time and through life, we are coming to a realization is that this is what makes us happy in the long run. So I just wanted to expand on the idea that gratification is not just the long-term feeling that we grow into, but it can have a very small beginning. That is the need to get the reward immediately. And if it serves us, sometimes it does. But through time and through life, the only satisfaction long-term is on the very far end. So that's what I wanted to expand on, what was Rona talking about. And for me personally, through my life, I believe I've been doing a lot of things that were bringing me joy. I always worked with people as an HR. I studied psychology. I was working with people and always was looking what was slightly below the surface, because that's what makes me tick. And gradually I grew into being a coach, working with people on one-on-one level or in small settings, compared to a corporate life where I was always limited by labor law, operations. So I was always having the part of gratification there, although not always the circumstances were bringing it. So I grew into the very real role that I'm having today. And I believe it has always been there. And Rona also said it, like in portions, this and there. What was maybe not always there was listening to it. So that's what I learned on the journey, to listen to the feeling of the joyful feeling of who am I? And that's where I'm still growing into, I would say. Because I would say it's a lifelong journey, constantly measuring within your environment. Is it still me or is it others? Does it serve me or does it serve others? And if it does it still bring me joy or no?
Absolutely, Romana. I love so many of the angles that you brought, starting with delayed gratification, which is certainly a theme that is over there in the media, and with the bursts of gratification and quick satisfaction that we are offered through technology is definitely one of the things that can change lives. It came into my life very early because I always liked, enjoyed financial investments. I love the capital market. And it's one thing that you learn very quickly, how much time compound results. So if you're too quick into finding whatever result you want to get from there, most often you're going to lose. When you're very lucky, you're going to win little. If you allow time and delay your gratification, you're usually very rewarded. And that also came then to my life. And when I make the bridge, at first, I guess like you, I also saw some big moments as the moments where I expected to be feeling or experiencing gratification whenever the big promotion will come or something like that. And then I've learned, no, that is a different way. I can also delay gratification here and compound results. And when I finally found my solution for experiencing gratification and being more often in the state of flow that Rona also mentioned, was when I connected it back to my values. And I heard both of you talking about it. So definitely that is secret sauce there. And in that secret sauce, that is understanding and being aware of our own values. Thank you so much for that. I would love to bring in Pina into the discussion and also hear from you, Pina. What are your thoughts on gratification? How would you define it and how you experience it in your life?
Thank you, Eduardo. I feel very connected with all what you, Romana, and Rona have shared. I've seen parts of myself and my life in all these sharings. My definition of gratification is very similar to yours. This deep sense of feeling of fulfillment in terms of in response to being service to others. There is a deep fulfillment for that for me. And as Romana said, that's long term. That's definitely long term. And as Rona said, I also grew up to be a good girl. And it took me a very long time to understand all of these things, to get to know who I am. I mean, that's a lifelong journey, basically, that will continue until my last breath. But yeah, I mean, I just grew up the same way, basically. You go to school, you educate yourself, you get a good degree, you get into corporate life, you get nice titles, you get into this competitive world, basically. One after the other, you collect victories, your definition of victories, basically, successes, definition of societal definition of successes. You collect one after the other. I did well on those, basically. And each time then, okay, happy for a day or two or for a while, I don't know. And then this feeling of emptiness comes, like, okay, now what? But like I said, it was like honestly, it took me one or two crises to understand all of these things, basically. Coming back to the values, coming back to the importance of service for me and how that gives me gratification. Maybe one thing I want to add is I also see this intrinsic gratification and extrinsic gratification. So intrinsic is the one that comes from inside of me, basically. It's my own motivation. It's my life purpose. And I'm a very purpose-driven person. I was just confused about my purpose, basically. So I was for a very long time, I was believing like my purpose is to collect all those successes, basically. But it's not that. So the purpose which comes from inside of me is this feeling of fulfillment with whatever I do, with contributing, kindness to this world, beauty to this world, empathy to this world, being with the other. These are things that give me intrinsic gratification. And the extrinsic ones, I mean, they're also important, like things like obviously our salary or some sort of financial recognition and some safety and all of these things. I mean, obviously we as humans, we need them, but it's not most of the time we get confused. Like we think these are the things that matter first, or at least a lot more than we think they do. And my learning was basically really, really, as Romana said, through these crises, then turn back to my body, really check in with my body all the time. And that's what I'm very grateful to dancing for. Like I've been dancing for more than 20 years, and it really taught me how to listen to my body and how to check in with my body, like really come to the basics. And throughout all these journeys, I really learned to check in with me. Okay, what's happening in my body right now? Where am I? Where do I feel tension? How is my breath? Why am I tingling here and there? And all of these signals. And then following up with these signals towards my emotions, and then also putting those things in a long-term picture. And as Romana said, what do these tell me? Am I in the right place? Am I doing what I really should be doing, want to be doing, or is there something else for me? I think, long story short, what I want to say is that our body is very wise. It's extreme. I may even go that far to say that oftentimes it's also wiser than our mind. That's a great learning. And then I think another thing that I would also want to say is that it doesn't need to take crises to learn these things. So it doesn't need to get there. If we can just be more attentive, maybe.
Love that, Pina, and you are somewhat connecting to the question I wanted to ask all of you. Before jumping into that, I would just reflect on what you said because it made me think, maybe fuel and then think. I was remembering now the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I was just thinking, yeah, of course, it makes all the sense, right? We are, despite all our advancement, despite all the abundance we live with, we are still so often so focused on this first level of safety, and that level of safety is linked to survival. There won't be any real gratification there other than I survive another day, right? That's pretty much all that is there. So you need to escalate a little bit the pyramid. You need to get to the level of self-actualization. There, you're really connected to values, to life experiences, to the creation you want to bring into this world, and then you find gratification. It's a completely different life experience, isn't it? I absolutely love how you brought that up and maybe reflect it. Thank you so much. You know, connecting with them the question because you said that, and I love that you said that you don't have to go through a crisis before you realize all of that and change your life. I was thinking then on the question about burnout. Is gratification the true antidote to burnout or just another fleeting high? And there on that question, as an antidote, I would say before you burn out, not necessarily waiting for it to happen and then taking some action. How would you reflect on that? Maybe back to you, Romana. Do you see a connection there with burnout? Is gratification part of the solution?
I might have like one short and one long answer. The short one is, in the very core, our body is very wise. So at the very core, we are trying to save as much energy as possible. That's actually what's our body and brain doing. So in a sense, we are very lazy beings, meaning we don't have to wait for the crisis to come, but we have a very low motivation to do so from the survival perspective. Because unless there is a need, a real need, meaning the tiger in the jungle, to do something that is energetic, that is highly energetic, or that we need to consume a lot of our energy, we won't move. That's why heart is so changed. And that's why most people need to go through a certain period of crisis. And it doesn't have to be like very deep. I agree. But a certain moment when a transition you need to go through to actually give you the push to move. Because otherwise we are still on the saving mode of the energy. So that's the physiology. Second thing I wanted to say is our body is wise because it's built in physiology. Again, there is actually research saying that the very similar brain cells we have in our brain, we have in our heart and in our gut. So there is a whole theory calling a three brains approach to listening to all the data that are actually available to us. So it just happens that we as human beings are overly depending on only one part of our body telling us the information, and then that's brain. But before we evolved into thinking human beings, we also listened more to our gut and heart. And there are the cells that made the decisions for us. So the gut is basically still and until now focusing on the survival. If there is actually, and that's where the gratification actually can speak for itself as well. At certain parts of our lives, we are more focused on the survival needs. And yes, it could be not just the food or air and drink, but it could be the money for the mortgage, to pay for the rent, the safety to actually buy and provide a house or a shelter to feel safe. And that's the gut making this decision a lot of times. And the gratification from the gut is based on this is what I need. It comes from the lack, the needs that I need to survive. And that's why actually at certain parts of our lives, it serves the purpose. If you wouldn't have enough money to eat or to be in a safe shelter, you wouldn't be thinking about the life purpose, because the only purpose would be to survive. So that's one part. Then the hard part is there is a gratification that comes from the values. And that's actually where we get to in the long run more, because oftentimes the head takes over and the gratification part from our brains, the head brains, is saying, okay, let's look into the future. What can I do? What's the vision? What can I foresee? And that's where we often get stuck as well with the overthinking. So the true long-term and satisfaction or gratification and fulfillment comes when we finally actually listen to all three centers, when we gather all the data from the head, heart, and gut. And then we are only able to make the true analysis what they are saying us and then decide. And in connection with the burnout is that when we listen to only one part of the intelligence we have and don't listen to the other ones. So is it an antidote? I don't know. I just think that burnout can come from different parts of our body not listening to the whole.
I love how you position it as a piece of the puzzle and how it's interconnected back to something I mentioned about you, Pina, at the beginning, bringing the whole human being forward, right? Being the full version of ourselves and embracing that version. I love that. I'm very curious, Rona, to hear now from you how the use maybe also reflect a little bit on what Pina and Rona mentioned on the importance of the body. Do you see that like that as well?
So I didn't catch all of what you said, Eduardo, because I think your internet's
Sorry, let me try to enhance the voice mode here. I was just inviting you, Rona, now to reflect a little bit on the burnout and then gratification as a solution to it. But I'm also curious to hear your thoughts on the importance of the body
absolutely.
in that equation. Do you see it as Pina and Romana proposed? Maybe you see it differently. I'm very, very curious.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. I think this drive for survival is a really key part of our experience as humans, and we know that through the neuroscience that there's this piece around, if there's a wild animal in front of me, I'm going to run or I'm going to freeze or fight. We know about that reaction. And I think that has a lot to do with our feelings in specifically the workplace, because I think burnout is a kind of workplace expression, isn't it? And so if we're almost medicalizing it, because if we're talking about antidotes, and I suppose before we can talk about the remedy, we have to understand the cause. And so I think burnout, if I would think about somebody who's struggling with burnout, they probably have these feelings of overwhelm, disassociation, demotivation, stress, that feeling of pressure. And I've never actually suffered burnout myself. And sometimes I think my clients do exhibit symptoms of burnout. And I also had symptoms, but not full on. But it's a horrible experience. And so I guess, you want to understand more, what is going on for someone who's struggling so seriously with that kind of experience. And I think it is very much to do with where Romana is pointing, in the sense that our brains have really taken over. And it's that part of our brain that says, I've got to get everything done, starting with, I've got to pass that exam. I've got to get a good job. I've got to then perform really well. And the way I know how to perform is to do the things that I need to do. And it just multiplies. We're going in a circle of the more I do, the more I need to do, the more I must do. And I can never get off. And I know I feel stressed and I know I feel pressure, but the way to alleviate my pressure is to do more things, because that means I'll get through my to-do list and everything speeds up. And I guess that where gratification comes in as a potential antidote, not the only antidote, not the only medicine, is that it teaches us to take a pause, to slow down. And that is so important, because if we can just slow down and just say, stop for a second, what is going on here? What am I really doing? And why am I doing this? And this is a process that I don't think it's a quick fix, although it could be, I guess, if someone had a real epiphany. It's a deep investigation into, what am I doing this for? What is my work for? And sometimes I know clients have said to me, supposing I can't find my why, then what? And the answer is, well, you're probably not doing this work for nothing. There probably is a link. And, it's important to find that purpose. And can we connect with the purpose of the organization as well as our own purpose? And I guess eventually, if you absolutely decide we are not aligned, then it's time to think about something else. But generally speaking, I do believe that people find themselves in roles for a reason. And if they can stop for a second and think about, well, what's needed from me here? Who am I serving? What am I serving? And go back to themselves, it helps you to get off that hamster wheel and
Mhm.
prioritize. Really ask yourself, do I really need to complete my email list at 1 a.m? Or do I actually need to shut everything down and have a rest and think about who I am and what am I here for? And the more we can do that, the more we can step back and understand what our people, might be our team, it might be our organization, what do they need from me? The more regulated we become, and our nervous system calms down. And when we calm down, we can return to our thinking brain, our prefrontal cortex that is responsible for thinking. And we're not being run by our fearful, primitive self.
I love it so very much, Rona. You just put me in a chair where it's 1 o'clock in the morning and I'm looking at my computer and I'm writing responses to 35,000 emails that have been lagging there for some time. And I am so enthusiastic about it because maybe I can even find the first part of the definition, my definition of gratification there. I am feeling like in the flow responding those emails. When I question myself, how is this serving others? It's probably deserving because I am disrupting people and driving an example that is going to be negatively impactful into their lives. And then in my mind, immediately it diffuses the purpose of being there and doing that at that moment. And you made me connect so quickly with that I realized I didn't know what gratification is like in an epiphany. So thank you so much.
If I
I
can
am,
add something to
yes,
it, Eduardo, um, there is and as you mentioned, replying on emails at 1 a.m, many people I work with, they actually love their job, or wrong. They used to love the job because at the very core, it was something that was giving them purpose. They just starting to bury themselves with the tasks that don't bring them the joy itself. So the burnout doesn't have to come from doing only something that's meaningless or doesn't give me any meaning. It often starts with, I was doing it because I love my job. It was actually, a lot of people told me it used to be my dream job. I can't even imagine what I would do beside this. This is what I love. The problem comes that we often don't know, why was that job important? What's the core? What's beneath the surface? Why we love what we are doing? What are the pieces of the puzzle? Because then it gets easier to say, okay, I still can keep something what I love. I just don't do the stuff that's draining me of the energy, because that's where the burnout comes. And with that being said, I don't think it's just a workplace issue, because you can get burned out as a mom being on a maternity leave. Because at your very core, you love your kids, you want the best for them. But if you start doing things that you don't like doing and they are draining you of energy, you can still burn out. So I think that the whole notion of burnout is more about doing something that you don't like doing, that's draining you of energy. And that's why you feel depleted, because that's what actually burnout is, that you don't find ways how to recharge yourself anymore.
I love that definition, Romana. And I was reading in preparation for another session some time back on mental health. What were the working definitions? And that is, it's slippery between burnout and depression, because indeed, as it's defined, burnout started, and it is still recognized as a workplace kind of phenomena, where your lack of energy, your lack of enthusiasm is still restricted into that one area of your life. Whereas with depression, that usually means it has a spread through, and now you can find energy to do anything at all. But I feel that since the world had changed so much, and we take up so many different roles, and we work and live in so many different setups, what you say is very, very accurate, because we start observing people burning out all over the place and not necessarily at work. Sometimes and I think it was maybe a bias as well, that people were looking into the workplace. If they would have looked into the homes, they would have found burnout mothers, burnout fathers that can't cope with the personal life, with the family life, but can still perform at work. So I definitely feel that is a space for us to evolve in how we understand burnout, and how we deal with burnout, to the point of Pina, that we don't have to wait until we get there and have the crisis. At the same time, inspired by you, Romana, that is some sort of a crisis that doesn't need to be a burnout, that triggers, that inspires us to look into it and change things. I feel very, very inspired with this conversation with the three of you, really energized. And I can feel gratified right now, because I am feeling good with the development, with the process. I love chatting and exchanging ideas, but then also thinking how this serves somebody else, which is, first of all, the community to whom we are delivering these insights, and hopefully inviting them into also reflecting how could they integrate a gratification in their lives, and maybe trigger a little tiny crisis instead of waiting for the big burnout crisis to come. If the audience is thinking like that, and they are willing to take one step towards that journey, if, that is one hint, one insight that you can share, something actionable with the community, I want to hear from you what that would be. And maybe I would start with Pina. And Pina, also use this opportunity if you want to complement on anything that we have been discussing.
Thank you, Eduardo. Yeah, what Romana, and you have been sharing has been resonating with me a lot. Yeah, Romana, thank you for bringing that perspective. Actually, I've also been in my mind more connecting, also based on my own experience, burnout experience with the workplace. Yeah, I mean, a mom or a dad can just as easily get burned out. Yeah, that resonates with me a lot. For me, the relationship between burnout and gratification is that if there's a lack of long-term gratification, the lack of this intrinsic gratification, intrinsic motivation, for a long term, if that lacks, for me, that results in burnout, basically. And that has also been my experience. So I stayed at a workplace where I did not have the long-term gratification for too long. And it's because I told myself the story, well, which is half story, half, I mean, I'm quite a resilient person. And I told myself, like, I'm resilient. I don't give up. This is my purpose. I will master it. It will be good. Whatever. Do this one thing and that will be good. Do this other thing and it will be good. So I just kept on telling this story to myself for way too long. And again, coming back to the body, like my body started talking to me very silently, first, a little bit of tension here, a little bit of getting cold there, one night not sleeping so well, and all of that, all of these things over time. And I kept ignoring and ignoring. And because I'm stronger than my body, that's my mind rules. It knows the best. So that's basically what I did for a very long time until my body really started screaming, basically. It started screaming. I had so much tension everywhere that I just had, honestly, I couldn't really properly sit. I had so much aches and tension everywhere. Sleep disturbances really quite strongly, feelings of anxiety, emptiness, and all of that, basically. I still kept ignoring until one day I couldn't, basically. Until one day I told myself, okay, what is this here? What is this here? Basically, that's where I also started making radical changes in my life, basically. Moving jobs, moving countries, changing my life completely, which I'm extremely grateful for. I didn't have a plan. I just followed my body, honestly. I followed my intuition, my instincts. I didn't ignore, but let's say like this, I deprioritized my needs for safety and security. I just put myself into an adventure, honestly. Now I call it adventure, but it was, I guess, rescue instinctively. And I'm so grateful that I followed the wisdom of my body and did all these things because I regained my life a much more one with a lot of gratification, basically. I mean, not overnight, but which took quite a few years, but a lot more fulfilling. Yeah, again, with intrinsic long-term gratification. It is filled with that, and I'm very grateful for that. Also, during that journey, I came to my coaching, basically. It's one of the most beautiful gifts of all this journey that I have received. I think what I would want to share is that, like, I'm repeating myself, check in with your body. Don't let your mind overrule. It's really this mind, body, and soul, they are all equals. None of them is ruling the kingdom. They are all equals. We really need to listen to all of them. And early on, really, it's early on to register with, just getting curious about things. And then, okay, I mean, I've got here something on my throat. Is there something that I want to say but don't say? What's holding me back? Okay, I've got cold hands. What does that mean now? Why are they cold? Or, okay, I feel this heaviness on my shoulders. Am I carrying too much? What might I want to basically release? What could that be one thing? It really starts getting curious like this. And then from there, really with the emotions and really like, I guess, don't do what I did. Don't be stubborn to be resilient. Like, it's okay to say, okay, like, I'm vulnerable. I'm fragile. I give it up now. That's okay. I need to take care of myself. I just take a break now and look after myself and come back. Yeah, I would tell this to my younger self.
I love it, Pina. And when you say about resilience, what I really feel is that you accepted an exchange to become truly resilient over the longer period of time instead of accepting just the small short-term resilience of dealing with a job or in a specific situation, which shows
Can I?
courage, which shows a real strength.
No, I just wanted to acknowledge Pinar because when you spoke about that time in your life when you were going through in your career, it was just so incredibly moving. I really felt it deeply, and your energy is just it's full of courage and wisdom. I really wanted to acknowledge that. Thank you.
Thank you, Rona. Thank you.
I love this space. Thank you so much, Pinar. Definitely the hint, the tip is very clear. Listen to your body. And I would ask Rona maybe to step in and also share a tip, a hint, an insight that can help somebody out there that wants to walk towards a gratification. What can they do?
So there are two little things. There's something that's just come up for me in the sense that we can think we're cured. You know, I know that I have gone through this. Wow, I found what I need to do. I know what I'm doing for myself. I found my purpose in life. Yay. And I have found myself in a very interesting situation, especially in training. I'm training Eduardo. And I remember one occasion I had a training to do. It was overseas. I was on my own and I was asked to deliver some training around coaching to a small group of people. And I slipped back into my old habits. I thought I had to train them in everything possible I knew and the whole world knew about coaching. And I was doing my homework and perfecting everything and having to get it right. And I had endless papers. And I, of course, went with all this stuff to the training and it was not necessary. And I caught myself again. It's so easy to think, yay, I'm done now. But I do think that, amidst all of this, it's something to do with what both Pino and Romana have pointed to. Keep on checking in with yourself and be compassionate with yourself, because we can all slip back into those default habits. I know my perfectionism, my good girl, my, wanting to please can come out to play when I am most under pressure. And so that's the moment when, remember, if you have those feelings, pause, breathe, come back to yourself, come back to what am I doing this for? And who am I serving and what do they need?
Pause, breathe, and come back to yourself. I absolutely love that. It's so powerful. And I think we share some of these training experiences. And I can tell you that I've caught myself over there doing exactly the same thing. And you just
Right.
made me laugh here inside. Yeah, I know exactly what she's talking about. Thank you so much. Romana, what would be your advice, suggestion, hints, tips to the community? How can they walk towards gratification in their lives?
Not to repeat what has already been said, because these are actually great insights or tips. I'm going to have three. The first one
Awesome.
is talk to someone. First, because when you verbalize what's going on with you, the emotions ease down. Name it to tame it. So the moment you start speaking up about what's been going on in your life, work, whatsoever, first you also realize you are not alone, but often the emotions start to lose its power, at least a little bit. So that's the first one. Second, do a proper analysis what's going on before you actually start the journey going somewhere else. Know where you are. You are holding a map. You also need to know this is where I am before you set on the journey. So that's the reason. So if we are talking about workplace or not, what brings you joy? What doesn't? What gives you energy? What drains you? So you have the analysis of the current state. So that's the second tip. And the third one, I would say dream big or even bigger. Because dreams have to be big. What we want from work or life has to be big. Because the reality is always going to cut your dreams short. So the bigger you start, the bigger you end up having in the end. So that's it. That would be my 3
I
insights.
absolutely love it. Three very strong pillars. And on the dreaming big, I mean, this is such a kindness to ourselves, right? That we allow ourselves to dream big, and with kindness we can go much further. I so much loved this conversation and loved your investment here. I wanted to give something back to you and to the audience as well, which is they are probably now thinking how they can connect with you, work with you. What is that the next step? So I would go one by one, asking exactly that question. How can potential clients reach out and connect with you? Starting maybe by Pina.
Thank you, Eduardo. So, yeah, I mean, as I said, I'm here to serve. It's my life purpose. So, whomever I can serve through life transitions, career transitions, just to listen, just to be there for them and with them. I show up in Google, so with my first name and last name, then I have a website there. It's easy to reach out from there. It's easy to reach out to me through LinkedIn. I have presence there. I guess those would be the most straightforward ways to reach out to me, just by message saying, hey, Pina, I'd love to talk. And then I promise I will get back. Yeah, as you mentioned in the beginning, my first book is coming mid-November. There I'm also sharing some of these stories. It will be also a means for us to find each other. So if we cannot directly reach each other, then at least through my reading and writing, that can be a way for us to connect. Yes, I think these are the three.
I love that experience, and I am already looking forward for that book, Pina. Thank you so much. Romana, how can clients reach out to you and connect with you?
I believe the best way is to find me on LinkedIn and send a simple message. Hey, let's talk. Because the relationship starts with a talk. So that's how I like to start, with a simple chat. So that's one way how to find me. And I guess the best one.
Love that. Love that. Simple, effective. Rona, how can people reach out and connect with you?
Thank you. So I'm the Out Loud coach, as I said. So I have my website, outloudcoaching.com. You can find me there. Also on LinkedIn, similarly. I also have my lovely book, Live Out Loud, if you want to have a little read about how to live your life out loud. Read all about that there. And I'm also on Instagram, Facebook. I'm on all the things. You will find me, I promise. And I'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
Rona, one follow-up question. Where can people find your book?
That is such a good question. On Amazon. Yeah. Live Out Loud,
Okay.
a masterclass in being yourself. Available on Amazon now.
Very good. That's the way to do it. I absolutely loved the conversation. I'm so thankful for all you have given to the audience today. On behalf of them, I thank you for your time investment and your presence here with me throughout this last 1 hour and 15 minutes, if you can believe that. Thank you so very much. And I wish you all a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.